Is being nice all the time Christian? I'm Stephen Tocher, and I've helped mentor and counsel hundreds of people over the past 20 years, and I'd like to help 10 million people over the next 40 years with their faith, their family, and their fitness. The other day, I was at an intersection, and it was just not moving well. There was gridlock everywhere in all different directions. So, I came to a complete stop when I was on the green because there were people who were trying to make a left-hand turn, and I signaled to the other drivers who were going in my pathway forward for us all to stop and for this, for some of the people to make a left-hand turn. Well, the first person made a left-hand turn, no doubt, and they took our act of kindness, and it was no big deal at all. They probably are well versed in it. But the next person who came up to the left-hand turn was like staring at us and then started yelling at us and pointing at us. I think she was saying like, it's green, you should go. And if she had looked just to the left of her or to the right of her, she would have noticed that pretty much all the traffic was stopped and that we were not going anywhere. There was nowhere for us to drive forward. So after a few moments, we were kind of now getting indecisive because traffic was starting to flow just a little bit ahead. And there was this precarious moment where I think she finally figured out what we were doing. But as that was happening, the person in the far most right lane that was driving forward, they started revving their engine to move forward as their lane was allowing for movement. And so here we are in this split-second decision. The lady is understanding our kindness a little bit too late, and the person who was in the far right lane, they were kind of pretty much done with the person's indecision, and they were going forward. So this led to a moment where the person making the left-hand turn and the person going forward almost hit each other. And it got me thinking, thankfully the person was safe, and so was the lady. They were able to get through the intersection. But it got me thinking of what my friend had told me a long time ago when it came to driving. He said, Steve, sometimes your niceness could get you killed, and not for the right reasons. Because when we think of being nice and getting killed, we think of maybe getting martyrdom, or maybe we were just following the Lord so well that the quote-unquote niceties that we do and how we love people and how we're willing to put up with everyone's stuff, that is a good thing. That's a wonderful thing. That's a holy thing. And I think in most cases that's true. We need a lot of our Christian brothers and sisters to be extra nice, to love people, to help people. But there are times and places, few and far between, where our niceness is not always the best route, the best action. And I'll give you some examples. For instance, if you think that being nice when someone is hurting and abusing someone and hoping that they'll change, that's probably not the best course of action. If you see someone, verbally or physically or emotionally abusing someone, especially in a church context, you need to be willing to step forward and maybe speak to that person or get the right people involved to take care of the situation. Being nice in that situation is not being very helpful. Even in this driving situation, us all being nice was great to let that person get through, on their left-hand turn when we had the right of way, and because we weren't going anywhere, we were letting that person forward. However, if they had gotten into an accident, our niceness would have been for naught. And there are situations when we are just kind of just being nice and just being nice to everyone and not being shrewd. And in those moments, we end up getting ourselves or other people hurt because we're not listening to the Holy Spirit and we're not taking the time to be discerning about the people that we help or the people that we connect with. Now, this is, I would say, more of a rarity, that we shouldn't be nice, we shouldn't be kind. I'd say that we should be most of the time, but we need to keep our guard up. And when it comes to the biblical stance on this, we look at Matthew chapter 18, verses 15 through 17, when it talks about how you deal with someone who is mistreating you or is hurting you within a church context. It first says to go and speak to that person. Maybe you see, again, someone who's mistreating someone else, or maybe they're mistreating you, and Jesus is asking us to go to that person and to have dialogue with them. And I think that is a nice and good and kind and noble thing to do. Even if it's like scary, then it's still a noble thing to do. Now, if you do fear for your life, or this person is very intimidating, then you may want to skip to the next step, which is to go with someone else and try to talk to them. And this is usually in a really serious spiritual matter. Like if you see someone abusing someone, or someone doing something that would defame Christ in a real way. And then you could also look at the different ways in the Bible that we see good correction. For it says in Proverbs 12, verse 1, that a person who is righteous loves correction. So the idea and the concept of us always being nice all the time is, I don't think it's very biblical. There are times, obviously, when we need to be nice, when we need to be loving, when we need to go the extra mile, turn the other cheek, all those other verses. But there are times when being nice can get people hurt, ourselves hurt, incidentally or, on purpose. So it's just something that obviously came to mind, and I wanted to share today. If you are having a struggle or situation with someone in a church context or at work or one of your neighbors, being nice isn't always the best approach. Sometimes you need to pray about it. You always should pray about it, but sometimes you need to take a bit more action than you think would be quote unquote necessary. And the only reason for that is that sometimes we are so clouded by what we see online and what we hear about being super forgiving and everything is wonderful, and God is just going to make everything anew and afresh, when in reality there is a lot of people, there's a lot of situations that are going to cause us to be with tension with other people and in the world, and being nice just won't cut it when someone is abusing or hurting someone else, or they're on a power trip, or a plethora of other things. So if that's you, and if you'd like to talk about it, please drop me a comment, and I would love to talk to you about it and hash it out. And if maybe someone else is struggling with a situation like this, where they're constantly trying to be nice and they keep getting overrun, or they keep getting abused and used, well, then maybe it's time for them to and maybe they've turned the other cheek multiple times. Maybe it's time to take a different approach, a godly, loving, biblical approach, but a different approach nonetheless. Because I do believe that being nice all the time is not biblical and can actually lead a lot of people to getting into more trouble, more problems, and abuse happens, as we see that's very, very rampant in the church. So hopefully that made sense. Hopefully it is something that hits home for you and that you can use in the future. And if you're going through it right now, I'll be praying for you to be able to be clear-minded and to use Matthew 18 verses 15 through 17 as a guide to properly go through the avenues and channels and get church involvement, and or to also remember that in Proverbs chapter 12 verse 1 that we need to seek out correction, and if someone needs to be corrected and they're a wise person, they will thank you for it in the end. If you'd like to watch any other dad doing dishes videos, you can take a look at the playlist over here. If you'd like to subscribe, that would be amazing. You can do that over here. Please like and comment, and I would love to get back to you as soon as I can. I think I haven't missed a comment in the past 15 years. And I just want to say thank you so much for watching. I'm Stephen Tocher. Have yourself a wonderful day, evening, morning, or night. God bless.